November 12th, 2014 was kind of an important day because on that day, Marvel held a presentation that announced Chadwick Boseman to the world as T'Challa, the Black Panther. And from there, he was joining the cast of Captain America Civil War, which was supposed to be coming out in 2016, and that's where we would make our first appearance as Black Panther. And since that appearance, where he stole nearly the entire movie from Captain America, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Black Widow, War Machine, Rhodey, yeah, him, of course, Vision, Scarlet Witch, Hawkeye. I mean, the list goes on and on from there. But he stole the show from there. He made an impressive debut, and then he got his first live-action solo movie in 2018 within the MCU. Since then, Black Panther has been, honestly, an icon to generations, to cultures, and to many different people who, truly enough, Black Panther has been an icon for years within the comics, but the movie realm was finally touched upon. And really enough, when you look at African American superheroes, we had Blade, and now we have Black Panther. There was really nothing else in the movie sphere when it came down to comic book films that were succeeding, and Black Panther was the one to come in there. And now, with Wakanda Forever releasing this week, I'm so happy to bring you guys my thoughts, my retro revisiting of Black Panther in 2022. Hi guys, thank you so much for clicking on this. My name is Zach, and one of my favorite films in the MCU is Black Panther. I've loved this movie since the first time I saw it. It was a game changer when I first saw it, and I still continue to think it is, not just for what it did for the MCU in introducing a brand new world in mythology and world building. And if you followed me for a while, you know I love that shit so much. But it also changed the game for the culture outside the cinemas, because I was seeing so many of my friends who are in the African American community being able to celebrate with a hero that they could look up and be like, that's me. This movie is so important as well for the amount of greatness that it brings to the MCU. And I know some people hate on this film, but for me, after even revisiting it all these years long, every single time I watch this movie, I continue to love it for so many different reasons. I'm so excited to be here. So if you do enjoy this video, guys, I do have a Wakanda Forever review coming out later, literally next Tuesday, this Tuesday. So if whenever you're watching this video, the Tuesday of release, it is going up early, so make sure to watch that video. I'm so excited to bring you guys my thoughts on that. As I'm recording this, I have not seen Wakanda Forever, but by the time I'm done editing it, I probably would have, just depending on when I actually decide to put up this video. And as well, if you guys are also new here, I love doing retrospective videos like this. I did an Avatar in 2022 a couple months back, and you should absolutely go check that out. But without further ado, leave your thoughts down below, and let's jump into this video. Black Panther, a fictional character. The character was created by writer and editor Stan Lee and artist co-plotter Jack Kirby. The character first appeared in Fantastic Four number 52 in July 1966 in the Silver Age of comic books, and Black Panther's real name is T'Challa. He's depicted as the king and protector of the fictional African nation of Wakanda, along with possessing enhanced abilities achieved through ancient Wakanda rituals of drinking the essence of the heart-shaped herb. T'Challa also relies on the proficiency in science, rigorous physical training, and hand-to-hand combat skills, and access to wealth and advanced Wakandan technology to combat his enemies. Now, Black Panther is the first superhero of African descent in mainstream American comics, having debuted years before early black superheroes such as Marvel Comics, The Falcon in 1969, Luke Cage come out in 1972, and Blade in 1973, or even if you're looking at the Green Lanterns, Jon Stewart did not even hit the role of the Green Lantern until 1971. Since that time period, Black Panther has only continued to grow, and it's actually quite crazy if you start to look that Kevin Feige actually wanted to bring Black Panther in way earlier on, and some of the higher ups within Marvel and Disney did not want that to happen. It's very sad to think that, because when now you look at this movie made a fuck ton of money, and it made it for a good reason. It was a game changer at the time for multiple reasons, like I mentioned in my intro. When he came into Civil War, it was one of the biggest introductions that I've ever seen for a Marvel superhero. In fact, besides Shang-Chi, I still contend that I think Black Panther's introduction in Civil War is the best introduction that we've ever gotten for an MCU character thus far. And plus, he was the first solo African-American superhero in the MCU to get their own film. When we look at this entire thing and the greatness and why it feels so special, Chadwick Boseman is a big piece of that. And rest in peace to him. I still remember the day when I read the news that he died. I cannot believe it. I'm trying not to get emotional right now as I think about it, because Chadwick Boseman for me was so important to the livelihood of Hollywood, and he already felt like he was just an up-and-comer by the time he had passed away, and he feels like he was ready to give everything. He played so many iconic people already in the African American community, and it's crazy to think that T'Challa was one of the biggest. Whether we look at the likes of his final performance in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom as Levy, or even jumping down to, of course, Marshall, where he plays Thurgood Marshall. He also was in, of course, 42 Jackie Robinson, and one of the most underrated performances that he ever did, maybe even his best, was from Get On Up, James Brown. He played multiple iconic people to the African American community, and diving in, of course, into one of the biggest roles in all of African American communities, and that is T'Challa, Black Panther. There's something about him that, we can discuss, we can argue if they should have recasted, if they shouldn't. I think there's pros and cons to both, there's naysayers to both, and I completely understand to both of those standards. What do I think? I think honestly maybe there was an argument to make him recast. Maybe not too soon, but I do think that he is indescribable into that role. The emotion, the powerful performance that he gave, and almost every single moment that he was embodying T'Challa, there was never one instance where I was like, that's just Chadwick Boseman. He always brought that character to life, physically and emotionally. And specifically even the relationships that he had around him with the other heroes, whether it was some of the relationships and banters that he had with Captain America, which is some of my favorite stuff that we've ever seen in the comics, whether it was some of the stuff with, of course, his lover Nakia, or maybe even the Dora Milaje, and just in general everything that we see there with Okoye, and even, of course, his sister Shuri and his mother. There's so many important avenues to all those elements, and specifically what T'Challa stood for, all those, and again, he embodied everything. And you could argue, yes, Zach, that goes towards some of the writing that Marvel does, but again, you can have a bad actor in a great script, but if that bad actor is not giving it his all, you can totally tell. I think for me, when we look at just Black Panther in general, it is held together by so much greatness behind the scenes and in front of the camera. And it's not just Chadwick Boseman for sure, it is everyone else involved with this movie. First off, Lupita Nyong'o is absolutely stellar as Nakia. I love the sensibilities that she actually brings to this character, and also along the likes of Winston Duke as M'Baku, a character who really much, if you would have put any other actor in there who was not talented, this character would have come off as very one-dimensional and just very meh. But because it's Winston Duke, who honestly should have been nominated for 9 Days. If you still have not seen 9 Days, absolutely please go watch that movie. But going back off my tangent, Winston Duke is an incredible actor and gave a lot of more developments to the role of M'Baku than honestly should have been. Latiti Wright is also great as Shuri, just the humor, the nature. Just in general, her chemistry and charisma with everyone else around her is truly something special. Angela Bassett, woo! What can you not say about her? She's great, and Denai Guerrera is absolutely incredible as Okoye. But there is one actor I haven't mentioned yet from Black Panther who does steal the show and still is one of the best villains in the entire MCU, and that is Michael B. Jordan, who of course dons the Vegeta look from Dragon Ball Z for Killmonger. Honestly, for me, I just completely dug it. I love the kind of look and really much what Michael B. Jordan infused, and I think this goes to Ryan Coogler, who put a pin in that name because I'm definitely going to circle back around on him for a little bit of a longer talk. But what I love about this movie is how the two ideologies of an antagonist and a protagonist, where the antagonist very much can view himself as the protagonist, as the hero of the story, as what he is doing good for the community and the world because of what Wakanda should do. They should aid to other countries. Where T'Challa is raised on an older belief from his father, and he believes that there is a little bit less to that all. And I really feel that both of them and their ideologies battle, and we very much see this now. Of course, spoilers if you have not seen Black Panther yet, but the spoilers of what T'Challa kind of gives into at the end of aiding people outside of Wakanda and giving their technology and their medicine out into the world. And I think that is something important that, again, kind of honors Killmonger's death and what he was fighting for, but at the same time is not as vengeful and frightful to what Killmonger wanted to give it out to be. I think that just goes, in fact, to the mythology and the world building of Wakanda, because honestly, if it wasn't just the MCU in general, I could argue that you could just make a ton of freaking movies in Wakanda, in the Black Panther world, because like we used to get, you know, with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, that was a world that had a lot of mythology built into it, but Black Panther itself is one of the most heavy hitting of it all, and it builds it up in a very respectful way where you really love hearing about every little ounce of the culture here. And it feels so important to every layer, whether it's the clothing, the designs, the characters, the way they move, the way they act, the way they dance, the way they fight. Every single thing goes back down to culture, and I'm always a big fan of watching culture in movies because it's a way of teaching us a different belief and transporting us to a time and understanding a different piece that we maybe never would have understood before in the past. And Black Panther is one of those things that does it. And this whole culture, this whole mythology, this whole entire world building that we've seen in this movie all weaves in through the score from Ludwig, which, goddamn, the score is incredible. The costume design, which absolutely brings every single character to life, every nuance, every scenery, every single thing you see in this movie is brought to life because of the costume design. Specifically, everything in Wakanda itself. One of my favorite scenes is actually the scene when he's looking up and you see all the people ready to chant him on as he battles for his kingdom. And I love seeing that. But it's the world of Wakanda. The world of Wakanda is one of the most breath of fresh airs that we have felt in the MCU. And you could argue, yes, Zach, some of the MCU-isms are in this movie, whether it's the humor, some of the action, the third act, whatever. I don't give a fuck what you think. What I will say right here is the world of Wakanda holds this movie up above. Then you topple on great performances, you topple on great casting, you topple on great costume design, great score, great action. God damn, the action's great in here. You topple that all on there with real world issues that don't just feel like they're there to make a point. They are there because it ties in and centers into the world of Wakanda and the world of the MCU. And all layered throughout there is a fantastic villain from Michael B. Jordan. But all this comes together because of one man, Ryan Coogler, who I'm definitely going to talk a lot about in my Wakanda Forever review because that guy had the most hardest job on earth with respecting Chadwick Boseman, honoring his legacy, and continuing the world of Wakanda, the Black Panther, and furthering the MCU, and tying all that together in a very respectful way. Now, I can't speak on that yet, but just looking at what he did with the first Black Panther movie is exactly what he continued to do with every other movie that he had directed in his entire career. Fruitvale Station's a masterpiece, Creed's a masterpiece. I mean, this guy has just continued to pump out masterpiece after masterpiece. And when you look at Black Panther, I mean, honest to God, I'm not going to be here to say that it is a masterpiece, but it has masterpiece-isms to it all, and it is a damn good movie that I absolutely love, and I think is almost perfect besides a couple of things that I would have changed here and there. But I'm here to talk about the pros and what I love about this film and how I think it holds up in 2022, and I think Ryan Coogler is the big part of that. He put this entire story together. He put this entire crew, this cast, he brought it all together, and while it takes place in the MCU, you can definitely feel that this feels like a Ryan Coogler movie. What other MCU film up to this point had huge thematics to a different culture? What other MCU film really dove in at this point to a different culture and community that many other comic book movies have not really reined in yet, and really touched in on it and explored while also diving into more mythology and world building? Ryan Coogler does all that while also crafting a very excellent and hard-hitting film when it comes down to action and emotion. Ryan Coogler did that. This guy created arguably one of the best comic book movies of all time for some people. And is it in my top 10? I could argue it's probably in my top 15, top 20, but it's something about Ryan Coogler's directing that really continues to further out and develop each and every one of his movies. And I contend that I think each and every one of his movies is as good as they are because of him as a director. And there's something again about his sensibilities, about his care for each and every one of the scenes and the way that he breathes life into them. No matter if it's an action scene, a thrilling scene, or just one scene between two characters talking very emotional, you can always feel something powerful there. And I think for me, one of the things that he really touches in on here is, T'Challa got a major spotlight within Civil War, and we're continuing his story within here. But it's the women of Wakanda that he also focuses on heavily. Dora Milaje, Shuri, and of course even Okoye and Nakia for this entire story. And I think again, it's the culture and community that Ryan Coogler brings to life here. And I think that continues to mean how important Black Panther remains, and what I hope to get from Wakanda Forever is that continuation of culture, community, and building up of Wakanda. I feel like this was just a great introduction. I feel like there's so much more to learn about the history of Wakanda, and to further out with what other developments now continue after the events of Infinity War and Endgame, to see where everything has gone, and to hopefully preserve the legacy of what Chadwick Boseman gave to the character of T'Challa and write that character off into a very swaying way, while we can continue to further out the legacy of the Black Panther and also the legacy and the historic moments of Wakanda itself. Black Panther in 2022 is still a fantastic movie. It's a movie that I absolutely grip and grab, and I think if you've never really maybe loved this movie from the start, I think you at least need to look and appreciate what it did for the African American community as well as the culture. And I'm the only one to speak from. Like, this is the thing, is I'm white. I understand I am. I completely understand who I am, where I've come from. But it's awesome to see like my friends, family members, and other people in my life who I consider just a part of my family to be able to look at this movie and view it from a different point of view and an angle. And I want to say that I think if you've ever looked at this movie, you should at least appreciate that, and not just shit on the movie. I think us as fans either have to love it or hate it, or it's mid or low, and I hate that type of stuff. Why can't we just look at a movie and appreciate it in a different way, but also still respectfully be like, hey, I don't love it as much as you do. I don't really even like the movie. I think it's cheap in this way, but I respect why you like it. I think us as the fan base, and that's a completely different discussion for a completely different time, but it's a discussion I think a lot of us need to have. And again, Black Panther in 2022 is still one of the most important MCU films ever, and probably honestly one of the most important comic book movies of all time. I think this film is absolutely incredible. I love it. I think it's awesome. It's almost perfect. I have a couple issues with the third act, but besides that, this movie is awesome. I think it's a great addition to the MCU, as well as a great first trilogy for Wakanda Forever. Well, Wakanda Forever definitely, of course, lost the main hero itself, which was the hero in Black Panther within Chadwick Boseman. I fully believe that Ryan Coogler will be able to pay off and give us an excellent sequel that doubles down on the original Black Panther while continuing the story of Wakanda and the legacy of the Panther itself. So with that said, guys, Black Panther in 2022 is another great movie that I think all of you guys should go ahead and revisit before the new one comes out. Let me know down below on what your guys' thoughts are. Look forward to an MCU ranking coming up after the release of Wakanda Forever, either on Thursday night or Friday morning. I'm so excited to talk with you guys about this all, but of course, until next time, stay classy.